Some in the room may be familiar with this story. A British Jew was once waiting in line to be knighted by the Queen. He was aware that when he approached her, his job was to kneel in front of her and recite a sentence in Latin when she tapped him on the shoulders with her sword. However, when his turn came, he panicked in excitement of the moment and forgot the Latin sentence. Then, thinking fast, he recited the only other sentence he knew in a foreign language. Manishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot. Puzzled, Her Majesty turned to her advisor and whispered, "Why is this night different than all other nights?" Thank you. Yeah. If you get this joke, you are among the 95% of the Jewish community that celebrates Passover. Perhaps even more than that. It is a staggering statistic, really. You can't say that 95% of Jews do much of anything. Not support the state of Israel, 95%, you couldn't say that. Not keep kosher, certainly not 95%. Not even agree on which day to end Passover. But it seems that our renowned trait of having 3 opinions for every 2 of us has led us to agree on absolutely nothing except the need to celebrate, joyfully or guiltily, or both, the holiday of Passover. In view of this, we might want to take that 95% out for a spin, or at least a little test drive. What does it mean? What can it mean? How can we celebrate that number? How can we learn from that number? As Passover comes to a close for Reform Jews, with the lighting of our Shabbat candles and the extinguishing of the Havdalah candle, I'd like to take just a few minutes to suggest a new way of looking at this nearly universally observed sacred occasion. Passover is, someone informed me in Weekly Torah Study last week, the longest surviving continuously celebrated religious ritual. Therefore, Passover, the festive meal that has now morphed, 2,000 years ago morphed into a Seder, is a vestige of a Judaism that we as particularly Reform Jews may not see very often. It's also, I think, an archive in a way. It's a repository for thousands of traditions from hundreds of countries over tens of decades and centuries. And because of these 2 things, it is a window for us to look into our Jewish souls. It lets us see and understand something about what our Judaism could be that nothing else has the power to do. No sacred text, no worship service, and no great rabbi or teacher. Here are a few things I think we learn about the potential of our Jewish identities from looking at the holiday of Passover. Firstly, we learn about living Jewish time. That rush to get the Passover food before it's all gone from the Kroger shelf. The way we interact with other Jews when we're buying it. The quiet of many of the neighborhoods that we live in when we make our way to each other's homes for Seder. Jewish time. It's a separate calendar. It was designated by our rabbis to link us to one another. Our calendar is the substance that ties us together as a community. As Reform Jews, I think very often we find ourselves apart from the Jewish calendar, but on this day, we feel close to it, and it is very unique for us on Passover. 2, we learn about the function of Jewish ritual. As Reform Jews, you may be aware, or even felt this yourself, we always have had a complex relationship with ritual. Whether candle lighting should be at this time or this time, wearing a kippah on the bima or otherwise, keeping kosher, Reform Jews have always raised the question, what is the point of this strict adherence to ritual law, in particular artifacts and actions? A valid question, certainly. It's good that we raise it, but I think Passover reminds us of the answer. Rituals are our uniquely Jewish way of expressing our universal values. Every ritual and symbol on the Passover table and in the Passover story has a story behind it. Dipping parsley in salt water, creating that beautiful Seder plate, leaving a seat and a cup for Elijah. These aren't just arbitrary actions, we know that. They express who we are and give us a way to act out that which is absolutely intangible. Our acknowledgement, perhaps, that slavery is bitter. Celebrating the renewal that happens in spring. Our hope for a brighter future. Those are what those symbols and rituals mean. We learn that Jewish ritual is a way to tell a story. And perhaps we could entertain the thought that all ritual has as much story behind it as eating that bite of matzah. 3, putting our own spin, our own midrash, on a text that's there already is part of our responsibility. My husband, who led our family Seder on the first night, found online a 2-minute Seder. He didn't actually use it, but he found it. And it was tempting given the youth at our Seder table. It included everything that you have to do to fulfill the mitzvah on Passover. And it left out, in a humorous, lighthearted way, all the extra stuff. While it's adequate, putting our own signature on the essentials is what makes the holiday enjoyable and meaningful. The songs we sing, the way we sing them, the food that's prepared, that's all called kavanah. It's the intention. It's the extra little bit of intentionality that we bring to it. And it is what really provides the direction for our observance. The act of adding it is so powerful that this ritual, as I said, is the most celebrated of any in human history. That says something about what we are seeking in our religious life. We don't always want to be talked at. Sometimes we want to create. 4, gathering with family and friends and engaging in a conversation is how we are meant to learn about Judaism. My guess is that we know what we know about Passover from our family and from the family that we celebrate with. We may know who likes what part or what traditions are valued and passed down. We know what can and can't be tampered with on any given night. And we know the story. These kinds of memories shape who we are, and they are what has made Passover something that no Jew is willing to ignore. That is the way we were meant to feel about all Jewish holidays. It demonstrates again what we're seeking in our religious life. We're seeking a connection to the past, to a community, and a feeling of ownership. It makes every part of our religious life more sacred. Religious school and temple can help, but what we hold on to and hold most dear to our hearts is what we learn at the feet of our parents or at the arm of our friends. And finally, telling our story gives us a text by which to define and know ourselves. The story of the Exodus from Egypt is, our Torah tells us, and we just read in the Ve'ahavta, the reason we observe all Jewish laws and customs. It is the reason. It is why we owe God obedience and reverence. But I'd like to add even more to that. The story of the Exodus gives us a connection to each other. It is the point of reference that all Jews share, and it has nothing to do with whether or not it actually happened that way. It is about having a common text. Having a common text and a common story keeps us a part of a common culture, and it reminds us that we share a common past, and God willing, gives us the strength to share a common future. So I'd like to propose to you that Passover is a microcosm of a Jewish approach to the world. It's family, ritual, story, time, and shared generational wisdom. When we ask ourselves, what does it mean to be Jewish? The answer is not only about faith. It is not only about family. It is not only about custom or calendar. It is about the noble union of all of these entities and the lifestyle that they form when they come together. Passover is an example of what Jewish living can be, and I'd say perhaps even should be, was meant to be. And I'd like to suggest that we entertain the thought that accessing this completeness at other times of the year, perhaps on another holiday or on a Shabbat, might do us all, give us all a beautiful gift. What's difficult about this is that Passover has been passed down to us with no break. And other holidays, for the most part, have not. We have to rediscover them. And that is frightening, and it feels artificial. But to preserve Judaism as a sacred way of life and not simply a passing interest, we must try. I hope and pray that in the months and years to come, we as a Reformed community can reclaim our place as heirs of this beautiful religious tradition, as vast as the Red Sea. And I hope and pray that we are not afraid to approach the sea and even to enter it, as Nachshon did. And I hope and pray that we can take that same leap of faith and hope and pray that we know that it will part for us as it did for our ancestors of old. Ken Yehi Ratzon.